Hey, beautiful soul. Welcome to Soulful Saturdays with Saylor. Around here, we cut through the noise, ditch the fluff, and dive straight into what matters: spiritual wellness, radical self acceptance, unapologetic soulful living. Each week, I'll bring you the truth with a side of sass, reflections that wake you up, and reminders that you are glorious. So, whether you got your journal, your coffee, or that wild, messy bun, you are exactly where you are meant to be. All right, my beautiful souls, Cindy Saylor here. Let's get real for a second. You know that feeling when your brain is like a web browser with 23 tabs open and you can't, for the life of you, figure out which one is playing the music? Yes, that is what life is all about. And if you're anything like me, one of those tabs definitely says, you should be doing more. And another one is a half written grocery list that you started 3 days ago. We're juggling a lot, aren't we? Self acceptance, spiritual wellness, being present, showing up for others, and still remembering to switch the laundry before it starts growing its own ecosystem. It's real life. This is real life. It's messy, beautiful, loud, and at times downright exhausting. And here's the thing: today we're not adding another tab. Nope. We're closing a few because sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do isn't to read another self help book or meditate for an hour. It's to pause and just breathe. And remember, you don't have to have it all figured out to take a step towards peace. Today is all about reflecting on how far you've come, resetting what no longer fits, and recharging that beautiful soul battery of yours. You've poured out so much this month for work, for family, for growth, and now it is time to pour a little bit back into you. So grab your coffee, your tea, or hey, maybe just sit still for a hot second. You don't need anything fancy. You don't need to be anywhere else. You're here right now, and that is enough. Because today's Soulful Saturday isn't about striving, it's about softening. It's about remembering that peace isn't out there somewhere waiting for you to earn it. It's right here, waiting for you to make a little room for it. So take a deep breath in, pause, and exhale whatever doesn't need, that you don't need right now. Just let it go. So let's reflect, reset, and recharge together. This one is for you. You know, I tried to have one of those deep spiritual mornings the other day. You know, the kind, soft music, candles lit, journal open, the whole vibe. I sat there all centered, ready to meditate and connect with my higher self. And then my mind said, did you ever send that email? So I'm like, shh, not now. I'm breathing. But then the dog starts barking, my phone dings, and suddenly my higher self is probably thinking, girl, I'll just come back later. You seem to be busy. 5 minutes later, I'm standing in the kitchen, halfway through a snack I don't even remember making, wondering how my meditation turned into a grazing session. That's real life, right? Yes. And you've been there. I know you have. And maybe you're there right now. Oh, and no, I can't see you. I just know these things because I've been there. And here's the thing, I used to beat myself up for those moments. I'd say, ugh, I can't even meditate right. And now I laugh because sometimes your soul doesn't want a 20-minute meditation. It just wants you to notice you're human, to pause, to smile, to start again without judgment. That, my friends, is the beauty of reflection. It's not about perfection, it's about presence. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. You know, it's really funny. We talk about wanting peace, balance, alignment. And half the time, we are sprinting through our lives like there's a trophy waiting for most spiritual exhausted woman of the year. Yes, that's me. Give it, give it to me. We pile it on work stuff, family stuff, emotional stuff. And before you know it, we're living in what I call spiritual clutter. You know that junk drawer in your kitchen? Yeah, the one that you dump everything into it. There's year-old batteries, there's old rubber bands, and there's something that might look like a charger from 2009. That's kind of how your soul gets when you don't pause to reflect. Just full of random stuff that we haven't sorted through yet. And listen, I get it. Life doesn't exactly schedule reflection time for us. Nobody's out there saying, "Hey, Cindy, I blocked off Tuesday afternoon for some quiet contemplation and emotional regulation." No, 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 no. Tuesday's more like, here's 12 emails, a traffic jam, and someone who chews too loud in the cubicle next to you. The truth is, we get so caught up in life that we forget to actually live it. We're always reaching for the next thing, the next goal, the next fix, the next version of ourselves that finally feels like enough. But when we're constantly chasing, we never really arrive. Sometimes we convince ourselves that if we just push a little harder or plan a little better, we'll finally feel calm. But peace doesn't show up because we earned it. Peace shows up when we allow it. And let this be real. Reflection can be uncomfortable. It means sitting in silence long enough to hear the truth whisper beneath the noise. And the truth, it doesn't always say what we want it to, what we want to hear. Sometimes it says, "Hey, you're tired. You've been carrying too much. You can put some of that down now." I used to think slowing down meant falling behind. Now I know it means catching up with myself. So if you've been feeling scattered, restless, or running on fumes, it's not that you're broken. It's that your soul is craving a reset, a deep breath, a return to you. Because reflection isn't about beating yourself up for where you've been. It's about noticing how far you've come and lovingly asking, what needs to stay and what can I finally let go of? That's where the magic starts to happen. The clutter clears, the fog lifts, and suddenly the peace you've been searching for isn't something you find out there. It's something that you remember in here. It's within. And okay, real talk, sometimes that peace shows up in a messy bun. fuzzy socks, and a half drunk cup of coffee that you've reheated 3 times. That too's fine. The point isn't to make your life look peaceful, it's to feel it. All right. Now that we've named the chaos and owned the clutter, let's talk about what happens next. That powerful pivot moment where we stop reacting and start realigning. You know, somewhere along the way, we started thinking that reflection means replaying every mistake on a mental highlight reel. Like, let's watch all of the awkward moments of my life in high definition. But what if reflection isn't about reliving the past? What if it's about reframing it? Here's the shift. Reflection isn't self criticism, it's self connection. It's looking back not to punish yourself, but to understand yourself. You're not the person you were a year ago. You're not even the person you were last week. You've been growing in ways that you might not even realize. Quietly, bravely, beautifully. But growth doesn't always announce itself with fireworks. Sometimes it's the simple realization that you don't react the way you used to, or that you gave yourself grace instead of guilt. And the beauty, and that, my souls, that's the pivot. That's the beautiful pivot. The moment you see that your worth was never tied to your productivity, your perfection, or pace, it's tied to your presence. Because resetting isn't about starting over, it's about starting from awareness. It's saying, okay, I see what drained me, I see what lit me up. Now I get to choose differently. Let me share something personal with you. This is a little Sailor moment, if you will. A few weeks ago, I was having one of those days where everything felt off. I spilled my coffee, tripped over the dog, and by noon, I had convinced myself that the universe was personally testing me. I finally sat down and took a deep breath and asked, all right, what's the real lesson here? And the whisper that came back was this: slow down. You're moving so fast, you're missing the beauty that's already around here. And just like that, I shifted from frustration to gratitude because sometimes the universe isn't punishing us, it's pausing us. So we can catch our breath, catch the message, catch ourselves before we burn out. So maybe today, instead of asking, what's wrong with me? We ask, what's ready to shift for me? Maybe it's your pace. Maybe it's your priorities. Maybe it's just giving yourself permission to rest without feeling guilty about it. And I'll be honest, sometimes that shift feels tiny, like the difference between saying, I have to and I get to. But those small language shifts, they change energy. They open space. They turn resistance into flow. So as we pivot today, I want you to think about one area in your life that feels heavy and ask yourself, what's one small way I could see this differently? That's all it takes to start the reset. Not a leap, not a big leap, just a small one. Just a gentle turn towards peace. And hey, if that gentle turn happens while you're in your sweatpants with a messy bun, you're still doing spiritual work. You don't have to look peaceful to be peaceful. All right, my beautiful souls, let's take this a little deeper. Let's bring it into real life, like the stories, the laughs, the lessons, because reflection doesn't just live in our journals, it lives in our everyday moments. Let's have a real conversation. You know, we talk about reflecting and resetting like it's this big event. Like we need candles, soft music, a journal that costs more than our dinner. Seriously. But honestly, sometimes reflection shows up in the weirdest places. For me, it's usually when I'm driving, windows down, music on, and out of nowhere, my mind goes, "So, are we really happy?" And I'm like, "Now? You want to do this now, universe? I'm just trying to get groceries." But maybe that's the point. Reflection doesn't need to be scheduled, it just needs to be welcomed. And this month, as we've been exploring spiritual wellness, self acceptance, and soulful living, I've realized something. These three aren't separate chapters in our story, they're the same thread weaving us back to wholeness. Let me tell you a quick story. A while back, I was in one of those why isn't my life lining up seasons. You know, the ones where everything feels a little off and you're convinced Mercury's been in retrograde since 2008. I was doing all the right things, journaling, meditating, eating the kale, saying the affirmations. But inside, I felt flat. And one day I looked in the mirror and I said out loud, "Cindy, you are trying so hard to be okay that you forgot to just be." Yeah, that really hit differently because that's what soulful living really is. It's not about having your chakras perfectly aligned, however, that's fabulous. It's about being real with yourself. It's being okay and saying, today's a lot, and still choosing to show up with love for yourself first. So let's make this a little more personal for you too. I want you to think about this question. Write it down if you can. Where in my life am I still trying to prove instead of just being? Maybe it's at work. Maybe it's in a relationship. Maybe it's with yourself. Reflection starts when you ask that question, and reset begins when you answer it with honesty. And here's the wild thing, when we stop performing for peace, we finally start feeling it. And let me give you another real life moment. I once set this big intention to have a mindful morning. You know, soft yoga flow, essential oils, gratitude journaling, and I had it all lined up. But then I knocked over my coffee, my phone started buzzing with notifications, and before 9 a.m., I was muttering things that were not in alignment with my higher self. And I sat there frustrated. And then I started laughing because that was the lesson. Life isn't supposed to look peaceful all the time. It's supposed to lead you to peace through the mess. So I grabbed a towel, cleaned up the coffee, and said, "All right, universe, I get it." Mindfulness with a little side of caffeine and chaos. Message received. And in that moment, something clicked. Reflection isn't about getting rid of the chaos, it's about remembering who you are in the middle of it. That's why this week is called Reflect, Reset, and Recharge. Not fix everything and ascend. Oh, though, wouldn't that be nice? It's about loving yourself enough to pause, look back with compassion, and move forward with intention. And if you've been listening and thinking, yeah, but I don't have the time for reflection, here's your gentle sailor style nudge. You don't need an hour, you need a moment, a deep breath in between conversations, a silent thank you before bed, a short journal note that says, I'm proud of me. Those tiny moments, that's where transformation actually happens. So before we move into the shift, here are your reflection prompts for the week. What part of me needs rest, not a to-do list? What story am I ready to release before stepping into a new season? What brings me peace so naturally that I forget it's sacred? Let those simmer. You don't need to rush them. Write, breathe, or just think about them during your drive, your walk, or folding your laundry, because spiritual growth happens in real life, not just during quiet time. And remember, the point isn't to be perfect, it's to be present. Even if the present comes with a messy hair, reheated cup of coffee, and a heart that's just trying its best. That's what I call soul work. The kind that meets you where you are and loves you there. So, all right, my beautiful souls, let's take a breath in and out. Yes, feel that. That's clarity sneaking in. Now, let's talk about what changes when we reflect, reset. Let's move into the shift. The shift. I absolutely love the shift. And you know what's beautiful about reflection? It's not about changing who you are, it's about remembering who you've always been underneath all the noise. That's the shift, the quiet realization that peace isn't something you chase, it's something you return to. When you give, when we give ourselves space to reflect, we start to see what truly matters. The things we thought were urgent often weren't. The things we ignored, our joy, our rest, our creativities, those are the things that fuel us. So the reset doesn't come from rearranging your calendar, it comes from rearranging your energy. And the recharge, that happens the moment you stop apologizing for needing it. Somewhere, someone told us that slowing down meant that we were lazy, that saying no meant we were letting people down. But here's the truth. Saying no to what drains you is exactly saying yes to your peace, and that is sacred. The shift happens in those little moments when you stop overthinking and start trusting your intuition again. When you choose rest instead of guilt. When you speak kindly to yourself after a mistake. When you catch a reflection in the mirror and say, you're doing better than you think. That's healing. That's growth. That's realignment. And the funny thing, most people think transformation is this lightning bolt moment. Suddenly, dramatic, loud. But real transformation, it's soft. It's subtle. It sneaks up on you in the middle of folding laundry when you realize, hey, I'm not carrying that old heaviness anymore. That's when you know the reflection works. The reset took root and the recharge did its job. And maybe, just maybe, you start to smile at yourself a little more, not just because everything's perfect, but because you finally feel present. That's what the space is all about. That's what Soulful Saturdays with Saylor is for, a gentle reminder that your soul already knows the way home. You just have to give it permission to lead. So as we move into the next moment, not the next month, not the next goal, just the moment, remember this. You don't have to fix everything to feel lighter. Sometimes the shift is simply deciding that today you'll meet yourself with love instead of presence. So let's go ahead and take a breath with me, please. Breathe in and out and feel that. That's the shift. Quiet, steady, alive. Beautiful souls, let's wrap this up with our soul nudge, that one loving takeaway to carry you forward this week. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't even have to know which tab to close first. Just pick one thought, one moment, one breath, and choose peace over pressure. Because the truth is, healing doesn't happen when you fix everything. It happens when you pause, when you stop trying so hard to manage everything. So, when we stop trying so hard to manage every feeling and stop allowing ourselves to simply be. So, this week, when your brain starts the 23 tab dance, smile at yourself and say, "Hey, Saylor said it's okay to slow down." Then actually do it. You deserve your own gentleness, your own grace, and your own presence, not someday, but today. Now go on and carry this piece forward, one tab, one tender moment at a time. And as always, remember this: you matter. Your journey matters. It is time to return to the beauty of who you already are. Excuse me. Because your soul deserves to be honored always. You got this. Stay soulful with Saylor. Thank you for sharing this Soulful Saturday with me. As you move through your week, carry this truth in your heart. You are worthy, you are radiant, and your presence matters. And never forget, stay soulful, stay sassy, stay you. I'll see you next Saturday, beautiful soul. Same time, same vibe, same glorious energy.